Welcome back, podcast friends. And now we have the holiday season coming up on us. I thought it'd be a good idea just to maybe give you some tips as we go through the holiday season, because this is the time between Thanksgiving and New Year is when most people, if they're going to gain weight, they gain about 2 to 5 pounds through this time period. And the problem is because of the way they eat, even after the holiday season's over, they never lose the weight. They continue to keep their insulin levels high, so they continue to put fat in their fat cells and never allow your body to burn it. So, what I wanted to do is explain because I want everybody to thoroughly enjoy the holiday season. And this isn't a time to be real picky, but you really can control, how much of these toxins do you put in your mouth, because there's going to be a lot of really great dinners that people are going to make, and a lot of new dinners, new plates of food that you're going to learn that you may not have had before. But there's also massive amount of toxins. So I want to help educate you as far as what considers nutrition and what considers toxins. So the first part of this, I'll just explain nutrients and toxins. And then last half, I'll give you actual practical tips that you can use as you're going through all the parties and seasons and Thanksgivings and everything else. So first thing, a lot of this is your mind. You go into this with a mind that you absolutely want to make sure that at the end of this holiday season, you feel good about yourself. Okay, so this is the gift that you can give your future self, is that you went through this whole holiday season and you never gained a single pound. We're not saying lose weight. We just want to make sure that you don't gain any weight, because if you do, that means you've been eating stuff that's going to affect your health. So give your future self a gift of keeping your scale the same. And along those lines, we're going to be doing a freeze the scale challenge throughout the holiday season. And you'll hear more about this later. But if anybody is interested in this, you can click on the link below and we'll explain to you what our freeze the scale challenge is going to be. So the main thing I want to go, just so you realize, there's three main pillars of disease. And that's having high insulin levels, having high inflammation throughout our body, and high glucose levels. Please don't underestimate the importance of this. Those three things, high insulin, high inflammation, and high glucose, is what kills almost every single organ in our body. That's where most of our diseases are coming from, those three things. So the key to eating healthy is keep your insulin levels low. When you keep your insulin levels high, it forces your body to store fat. When you keep your insulin levels low, it forces your body to use the fat out of your fat cells for your energy stores. So obviously, if you're obese, if you're overweight, if you're type 2 diabetic, if you're any of this, have high blood pressure, all this is, if you just keep your insulin levels low, you could get rid of all that. So that's what the key to all this is, keeping your insulin levels low. And be very mindful that what makes your insulin go up is glucose. Okay, and we'll talk all about this, but glucose is what makes it go up. And the way you make your glucose go up, the only way your blood glucose goes up, there's only two ways. You either burn it out of your storage because you need it for a fight or flight situation, a stress, or you eat it. That's the only two ways. So if you have a problem with glucose, high blood glucose, it's because you're eating it. All you have to do is stop eating it. It really is that simple. And just so you know, glucose is the basic building block of all plant-based foods. I'm not saying don't eat plant-based foods. I'm not saying don't eat fruit and don't eat vegetables. But depending on where you are, we'll talk about where you're going to get most of the glucose. But real fruits and real vegetables aren't the main problem. It's the chemical-based foods, as we'll talk about. The key that we want you to do is keep your insulin levels low. And again, we said that is by keeping your glucose levels low. So when you look at the three pillars, high insulin, high glucose, and high inflammation, if you quit eating glucose, your glucose will be low. And when you quit eating glucose, your insulin levels will be low also. So the next one is the inflammation. How do we get inflammation? Where does that come from? The two main things that you eat that causes inflammation all throughout your body, and a lot of people tend to eat this all day long, every single day, it's chemicals as fructose. Both of those are extremely inflammatory to our body. Now, fructose, a part of that gets metabolized into inflammatory mediators and uric acid, but the majority of the fructose that you eat actually gets turned immediately into fat and stored. So fructose doesn't, there's no reason you should ever have fructose in your body. And just think about it. That's how bears, that's what they do. They eat a bunch of berries to fatten themselves up so they can go into hibernation. Does the same thing with people. So the key is keeping inflammation low. So first, mentally, what we want you to do is we don't want you to feel bad about yourself at the end of this holiday season. We want you to feel good because the holiday season is not about eating food. It's about building relationships, strengthening relationships. It's about truly appreciating the people you're with, your friends, your family, whoever you're with, appreciate that time. And then just let food just be there, but it's not a major focus for you. So what you want to do when you eat all the way through the season is think, is this a nutrient or is this a toxin? Okay, that's really, if you could just keep that part in your mind, it's going to help a lot of things. So what are nutrients? Nutrients are protein, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals. Those are the 5 things that your body, you have to eat that. You have to eat protein, you have to eat fat, you have to eat cholesterol, you have to eat vitamins, and you have to eat minerals. When you give your body the nutrients that it needs, your body is satisfied and it will not be hungry. You can go for several hours to days without eating when you give your body the nutrients that it needs. When you feed your body toxins, this is when everything starts breaking down. So what toxins are we talking about? The main toxins, we have fructose, which I'll explain a little bit. We have just plain chemicals that we're just bombarding our internal organs with chemicals. And the other one is excess glucose. So first, let's actually look at excess glucose. When I say excess glucose, just so you know, the minimum daily requirement for glucose is 0. You never, ever have to put glucose in your mouth and you will live perfectly fine. Your body can make all the glucose it needs out of protein and can make all the glucose it needs out of fat. Okay. What is glucose? Glucose is the basic building block of all plant-based foods. Protein, the basic building of protein is amino acids. Basic protein of fat is fatty acids. And the basic protein of carbohydrates is glucose. So any plant-based food, which means fruits, vegetables, and all man-made food, they all have glucose. They just have varying amounts. So that's where you have to decide how much glucose do you want. You don't need any, but you can have depending on what your health status is. So what are the toxins? So that's the nutrients. Nutrients is protein, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals. So when you're eating something, if it has one of those, you're putting a nutrient in there. If you're having toxins, if you have excess glucose, when you eat a lot of glucose from either sugar or from flour or from just any plants, period, when you eat a lot of glucose, your glucose levels go up, your insulin levels go up, and you're also putting inflammation into your body. Excess glucose means any glucose you eat basically is excess glucose. If you take all the blood out of your body, all of the blood out, and take all the glucose out of that blood, it comes about 2 teaspoons of sugar. That's all there is. So you do not need a lot of glucose, and this is what's causing all the diseases that we have. So as far as plants, again, when you're looking at the glucose in plants, there's plants that grow above the ground. These are what a lot of people refer to as the leafy greens. But the plants that grow above the ground, they don't have a whole lot of glucose in it. So that's not really your problem. The ones that grow below the ground, okay, this is going to be the energy source for the plant. So there's a lot of starch in those and starch is just long chains of glucose. So you get a lot of glucose when you eat the plants that grow below the ground, your beets, your carrots, your potatoes, all that. Anything that has a lot of starch in it, but just be aware of how much glucose in that. But the main issue is man-made food. Man-made food is loaded with glucose, and it's on purpose because they know that glucose and fructose help get you addicted to their food. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to continuously eat their food. There's no nutrients in it at all. Basically, it's just all toxins. So what other kinds of toxins? Where are the toxins that come from in man-made food? Fructose is another toxin. So fructose, you get fructose in sugar because sugar is half glucose, half fructose. And you get even more fructose in high fructose corn syrup. And just for the reason, because high fructose corn syrup and glucose are basically the exact same thing, only with high fructose corn syrup, you even get more of the toxin than you do with the glucose. And then And then the last thing where you're going to be getting all these chemicals is man-made food. They put fructose and high fructose corn syrup in everything. So fruits, glucose, and high fructose corn syrup. That's where you're going to get fructose. And that's going to cause a lot of toxicity, makes your body inflamed, puts more uric acid in your body, and it also gets turned into fat. So now, man-made food. This is the stuff that I really want you to stay away from throughout this whole holiday season. Cut back on your sweets, cut back on all the sweets as much as you possibly can. You really, if you could go through with no sweets, it's gonna be great. But definitely try to stay away from anything that's made by man. That the anything in a box, bottle, bag, can, all that stuff is absolutely horrible. So first, man-made food, there's a ton of chemicals in it. So most man-made food is made out of ultra-processed seeds, glucose and high fructose corn syrup, and seed oils. So these ultra-processed seeds, wheat, soy, and corn. Those are the three main products that our government gives money to so we can make massive amounts of those three products because that's what our man-made food is made out of. Okay. Those are the main three. So when they have these, it's called monocropping. They just sit there and they grow all these massive amounts of corn and soy and wheat in these great big fields. And then they go through the plains and they crop dust these and they put chemicals all over these. They put chemicals on there for pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides. All these chemicals are sprayed all over our food. And yes, that does get into the food. That not all that can be washed off. It does get into the food, and this has been proven over and over again. But then it gets even worse because then they take some of those and they make seed oils out of them. And once they take some of these grains and they make seed oils, besides all the chemicals they put on it while they were still planting it, now they have to try to get an oil out of these seeds. So in order to do that, they have to use a bunch of petrochemical solvents. They have to use a bunch of bleaching agents, and they have to use a bunch of deodorizing agents because they say that when you work in this plant where all these vegetable and seed oils are being made, it stinks so bad that all the workers have to wear these respirators to keep the smell down. Then they go and they put even more chemicals in there. So if you have any artificial coloring, any artificial flavoring, any artificial sweeteners, that is all chemicals. And these chemicals keep our bodies inflamed all the time. So again, the three pillars of health or three pillars of disease is high glucose levels, high insulin levels, and inflammation throughout the body. And man-made food is the main culprit that's causing all that. Yes, other plant-based foods like fruits and vegetables, those do have glucose in them, so you do have to be careful. There's also just regular phytotoxins because plants don't want you eating them. They don't want all these animals eating them until the plant's ready. So they have toxins to keep the animals from eating them. So just have to be aware of what toxins are in the vegetables that you like and what kind of cooking procedures you have to go through to get rid of or to minimize the toxins. Think about what kinds of foods are causing us sickness. And it's all man-made foods, and the box, bottle, bag, and can has a long ingredient list of all the chemicals that are in there. Stay away from all that as much as possible. And all these desserts, cookies, candies, cupcakes, it is horrible. And this is what's going to cause basically your ill health for the rest of your life. So if you can learn how to stay away from that now, it'd be great. So what I want you to do is now let's think about the actual holiday itself. The holiday season is coming up. There's different things that you want to do before you ever go to a meal. If you know what's on the meal, if you know there's going to be some healthy stuff, then you'll be fine. Never, ever go to a party hungry. So if you can eat a little bit beforehand, sometimes that might help also. If you do eat something beforehand, do not eat carbohydrates, okay? Even fruits and vegetables, because carbohydrates do not stay in your intestine very long. It makes you more hungry about an hour to 2 hours after you eat it, because the carbohydrate, the plant, the fruit, the vegetable, and the man-made food, all that, it gets broken into glucose very quickly, gets in your blood very quickly, causes your blood glucose go up, and that makes your insulin levels go up. Once that glucose goes back down, depending on how much you ate, once it goes down, now you just made yourself hungrier. So anytime you eat a carbohydrate before a meal, that's basically you're eating an appetizer is what it is. You're eating something to make you hungrier. And that is really not what you're wanting to do through the holiday season. You want to eat the things that are going to keep you full so you can spend more time visiting with everybody. Just like when you go shopping, you want to make sure that you try to avoid all the carbohydrates. You want to eat before you go, and you want to avoid carbohydrates before you go, and have a plan on what you're wanting to eat when you're there. If you think there's not going to be anything good there to eat all your protein, eat all your meal before you ever go, and then you can just spend your time visiting. Now, the other thing is during the meal, think about different things like you want to prioritize protein. You want to prioritize the types of food that keep you feeling full. And that's going to be protein and fat. Okay. That's what keeps you feeling full, mainly animal protein. So go ahead and eat your turkey, eat your ham, whatever. Fill up on that really well, because when you do that, you're giving your body the protein, you're giving your body the fat, you're giving your body the vitamins, and you're giving your body the minerals. You're giving your body all the things it needs. So give your body the things it needs first. And if you're still a little bit hungry, that's when you can go and you can start having some of these carbohydrates. But again, be very careful on which ones you have. The ones that have a lot of sugar in it, those are the ones that they have no nutrient value. Those are the ones people tend to think they taste better. But again, you can change your mind on that, because what you really should be thinking is that's toxin. And when you start eating that stuff, that's when your glucose levels rise. That's when your insulin levels rise. And I guarantee that's when your inflammation rises too, because of all the chemicals that are in that stuff. So try to prioritize protein, control your carbohydrates, and also be very mindful of your portion size. If you really want to do this right, get a small plate, because just visually, when you see food on your plate, if you've got a big plate, you feel like you have to fill it up. So if you get a small plate, you can fill it up and you're still not getting that much. And then when you get that plate, remember, first prioritize your protein. Get your meat on there just as soon as you can. Get as much as you think you want, and then just fill in around the edges with your fruits and your vegetables. And again, try to stay away from all these sickening sweet desserts. Minimize them. You can have them, but we'll talk about that in a little bit also. Remember, eat slowly. This is a time for everybody to get together and enjoy each other. So if you could put your fork down between bites and just sit there and visit, you'll be doing yourself such a favor if you do that. Now, as far as the desserts, they start eating all the candies, all the cookies, all the pies, all the whatever cakes. When you do that, you are automatically stimulating your hunger. You are making yourself hungrier. One, you're getting that taste in your mouth. But two, like I said, you put glucose in your blood really quickly, makes your insulin go up, makes your glucose go back down, and then you're starving. So anytime you're eating things like that, you're making yourself much, much more hungry. And once your insulin levels are high in your blood, it totally changes the way your body handles all the other food you're getting ready to eat. Because again, when your insulin levels are high, it forces your body to store fat. When your insulin levels are low, all you can do is eat the fat out of your fat cells. It won't let you store it. So obviously the key is keep your insulin levels low, which means keep your glucose low, which means keep carbohydrates out of your mouth as much as you're wanting to do. And again, with the desserts, use a very small plate. Most things have been found that if you have a craving, usually that craving is satisfied within the first 2 bites. That's when you get that, oh my gosh, tastes wonderful. Oh, I can't wait to have another bite. But really, after the first couple bites, that special sensation is gone. And now you're just eating the rest of it because it's there. So if you're wanting something, I would get a small plate and just do a sampler. Just do like just 2 or 3 bites maybe of all the different desserts that you want. So that way you keep the overall amount down because you have a smaller plate, but you still get to taste everybody's food. And depending on how many small pieces you have, that's still probably going to be quite a glucose load that you're putting in there. And when you don't ever start your meal out with high sugar stuff, again, because once your insulin levels are high, it totally changes how it's going to take the rest of your food. But the other thing is, once you do have a dessert, after you've eaten and you rest a little bit, and then you have a little small plate of dessert, don't immediately get back up and go get another plate. Wait about 30 minutes. If you can wait about 30 minutes, let your body realize that you've eaten that stuff. Let it get some of the protein in there. Let some of your insulin levels come down a little bit. And after about 20 or 30 minutes, if you're still hungry, that's when you can go back for a second plate if you want. But I would still do it the same way. Take the same small plate and just do the little 2 to 3 bite portions. You don't have to have a whole piece of pumpkin pie and pecan pie and cherry pie and apple pie and whatever cakes and cookies and everything else that you have. And if you start your meal with protein, you will not feel as obligated to do that. But if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, like most people do through these meals, they may have a little bit of turkey, Then they have all the stuffing and potatoes. It's all carbs. It's all glucose. So if you can put mostly protein, mostly meat in your stomach first, then you can have some of those carbs on top of that, and you'll be so much happier with yourself when you're done. And again, this isn't just for Thanksgiving or for these holiday dinners. They're the entire time. Be thinking of this. Keep protein very important in everything you eat. Protein and fat's going to keep you satisfied, give your body the nutrients it needs, and keep you from overeating. Hopefully, that's the plan. The other thing is what you drink. Again, sugar is everywhere, and this is what's killing us. Sugar is killing us. And the food companies know that. That's why they put it in everything, because it keeps us hungry. We're never full. We never get our nutrients, or our bodies constantly make us hungry. So don't fall for what the food companies are doing. If you drink, do not drink soda pop. Don't drink fruit juices, these energy drinks. All this stuff is loaded with sugar. Drink plain water, plain unsweet coffee, or plain unsweet tea. That's it. Don't have all this other stuff. And if caffeine affects you, then you're going to want to stay away from the coffee and tea also. But you understand that. But if you can, and there's some really good sparkling waters. There's some bad sparkling waters that have a bunch of sucralose and other artificial sweeteners, which again are just more chemicals. But there's also some pretty good flavored waters that don't. One that we like is Waterloo's one, LaCroix, Bubbly. Those are some that you can drink. They give you a little bit of flavor, a little bit of carbonation, but you're not getting all the sugar. If you can stick with water, then that's also going to help decrease your urge for all these sugary sweets. Now, also around the meal, again, take a break. Don't just sit there and eat all your meal. If you're going to take a break for about an hour before you ever go back for another meal, because a lot of times the stretch receptors, they make you feel full, but you don't get that full feeling of total satiety or feeling full for about an hour after you eat, and you start getting all the other things that are in your intestines, like peptide wine, cholecystokinin. Those get stimulated by protein and fat, and that is in your intestines, and that keeps you feeling full. Prioritize protein. The holidays are just one day. There is a Thanksgiving, there is a Christmas, there is a New Year's. There are specific dinners that you may be going through, but that doesn't mean you have to eat anything you want to all day long, every single day throughout the holidays. You still should not be doing that. If you find yourself eating all these sweets, then that is what you're going to be doing, because they are going to make you hungrier. So just be aware. If you're reaching for a sweet, just think of it as this thing that you're getting ready to eat is getting ready to make you hungry. So when that happens, what are you going to eat? And most people, they eat carbohydrates all through the holidays, because carbohydrates do not keep you feeling full at all. And then the last, remember, the whole thing is having your glucose up. So if you do eat these carbohydrates, okay, your carbohydrates are going to be broken down in the intestines into glucose. So any plant-based food and all man-made food that you eat is going to be broken down to glucose. That glucose is going to go into your blood, and that's going to make your insulin levels rise. Another thing that you could do to help get that glucose down out of your body, out of your blood as soon as possible, so your insulin levels come back down, is go for a walk after you eat. So about 30 minutes. So you've got all this food in your stomach. Give it about 30 minutes for all the carbohydrates to get out and go in the intestines, because carbohydrates do not stay in the stomach very long, and they don't stay in the intestines very long. It just gets turned into glucose and goes into the blood. Okay, protein and fat will stay in there, but the glucose won't. So once that glucose in the blood, you need to try to get it burned out. So if you have a high carbohydrate meal, wait about 30 minutes and then go for whatever kind of walk you can. If you go for a 20, 30-minute walk, that would be perfect, because you're moving your body. And as you move your body, that's going to take energy, and the body's going to take the glucose out of your blood for its energy first, because your body does not want a high blood glucose. It knows how horrible high blood glucose is. So it does everything it can to get that glucose out of the blood. So if you're walking after a meal, that's going to help lower that glucose. Okay. Don't think about this as, oh, the great meals. Think about it. Is this a nutrient or is this a toxin? If it is protein and fat, it's a nutrient. If it's a carbohydrate, it depends, because it can be it could be a nutrient. If you have some nice, healthy, leafy greens that grow above the ground and some things that grow below, just depending on how unhealthy you are as far as how much you can have of those. But the man-made carbohydrates, that's what's horrible. When they do all this ultra processing of the soy, corn, wheat, and all the chemicals, that's the stuff you've got to stay away from this whole holiday season, and you will feel so much better for yourself, about yourself, if you do that. So try to freeze that scale. Try to, as you go through these holidays, don't gain any weight. You don't have to worry about losing it, but don't gain any weight. And it all is determined by how much you eat, how much glucose you eat. Keep it low, keep it fun. And the most important thing is to enjoy the company you're with, because that's what this holiday season is all about, is strengthening bonds, making new bonds, and enjoying life. If you want to join our Freeze the Scale challenge that we're going to do through the holiday season, you can click on the Facebook link down in the show notes and we'll get you the information that you need. Have a wonderful week and have a wonderful holiday season. Have fun, enjoy yourself, but give your future self a gift of no weight gain throughout this holiday. And again, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And remember, if you would like to enroll in our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course to help you reach your new improved health goal, to reverse type 2 diabetes, feel great, and get off medications, we are here to help. Just go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live.